partner with SGC Grading. Check them out at www.gosgc.com. Experience, quality, consistency, and the quickest turnaround times in the grading industry? We are proud to partner with SGC Grading. Check them out at www.gosgc.com.
Hi, I'm Danny Black.
And I'm John Newman.
Welcome to Card Menches. Yo, what's going on? It's been a couple weeks.
It has. It must be Card Menches time.
It is. It's Friday night at 9 p.m. on the East Coast. That's John. I'm Danny, and welcome to Card Menches. What episode are we on? I have no idea.
I believe it's 48, but I could be off. But I think it is 48.
Episode 48. That means we're getting close to 2 years of this.
Yeah. We're in our third numbered year. We haven't done 2 years of shows, but we're in the not Dr. Mayer. I don't know. Not if you look at we talked earlier. I told you the Mets are going to do Mets things, and they're doing Mets things tonight. They're losing 5-0 in the third inning to a team that's already clinched their division.
Ruben, we definitely dance. Sometimes together, sometimes separate, but we dance.
Yeah, I'll move my shoulders, and that's about it, and probably the best for everybody.
What's up, Warren?
A bop. What do they call it? Bopping?
Bopping, right. What episode? 48? 46?
48. You want me to really check?
Yeah, really check.
I mean, we're not usually accurate in this show anyway. You want me to just make sure? Let's see.
Hey, you can dance if you want to. You can leave your cares behind. Good song. Thank you, Ruben.
You know, I'm surprised you knew that one.
What year did that come out?
85, I'm guessing, without knowing.
You're getting closer to my sweet spot when you go there.
All right, it is episode 48. I know
48.
my Mensch episode numbers.
96 weeks. That's crazy. Interesting topic tonight. We disagree on a lot of the answers, but the premise is interesting. In 50 years, which vintage players or which players are we still going to remember the same way? Who might fade a little bit in our memory? Not that they're not good players. You know,
in 50 years, me and you probably won't be thinking about any of these guys.
Sure we will. We won't. You know, we'll be drinking. We'll be drinking a milkshake without any teeth. But
I'm not going to be here. I'd love to join you, but you're gonna have to have a new co-host then.
So the idea is we're going to talk about players, whether or not John's around to see them or not. But in 50 years, I use Bill Dickey as an example. Bill Dickey was a great catcher. A whole generation grew up knowing Bill Dickey is a great catcher. And now today, if you bring up Bill Dickey to most players, to most people and most collectors, they got to look him up. Doesn't resonate, even though he's a Hall of Famer. I had to look up some of his stats, to be honest with you. And he was a great player, but it'll be hard to say that he has got the same recognition now that he did maybe, a generation or two ago.
With a name like Bill Dickey, you have to be good. You just have to be. It's like Schmuckers. With a name like Schmuckers, it has to be. With a name like Bill Dickey, he has to be good.
Griffey's a good one,
Griffey,
Ruben.
for sure.
We tried to stick with Hall of Famers.
He's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer.
He's a Mets Hall of Famer.
No, he's not.
I was talking about Benny Agbayani.
Yeah.
Mookie's vote.
Soon to be on the Ring of Honor at Citi Field.
Yes. So we tried to stick to Hall of Famers, not completely. Griffey's a good one that I left out. How do you want to do this? You want to go back and forth? Do you want to?
We'll do that. Like who wants to go first?
Well, let's start with somebody that I think we can both probably agree will be remembered. Can I throw out the chalk of the chalk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Babe Ruth.
All right, so here's what I wrote down, and this will make the show probably too short, but I just put Yankees of significance, and obviously Babe Ruth, your Gehrig's, your Manos.
I disagree with you.
How do
I
you
don't-
disagree with Yankees of significance?
Well, who do you consider of significance?
Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra.
You think Yogi Berra in 50 years will be remembered the same way that he is?
Very close. I mean, 50 years is half a century, so maybe not exactly the same.
Yeah, I don't think he would remain.
When you look at a Yogi Berra between the quotes and the character, his managing, he's a Hall of Fame arguably one of the best catchers. Multiple rings, you couldn't put him on one hand. Yeah, I mean he's not looked at in the same vein as a Mickey Mantle, but I think he's remembered.
Well, I'll even go a step further. I don't know that Joe DiMaggio is remembered the same way. What's he going to be remembered for? The hit streak, and that'll be what he's remembered for, is the hitting streak. Not for the
I think there's
player.
certain guys like that are iconic, man. Like someone's going Kevin Moss.
Right.
Somebody's going to continue to tell that story. Right? Look, Jackie Robinson's on my list. Not because I love him, right? But he only played like 9 years, and we still talk about him, like, because he's iconic and what he meant also off the field.
Well, I agree with you on Jackie, but Jackie's one of those few players I think makes it. Ruben brings up a good point here. Says with the Yankees, it depends on the era and the range of the fan. Boomers were in love with Mantle. Modern fans will go with Jeter. So, Ruben, I ask you, do we think that somebody like a Yogi Berra will remain as significant in 50 years? I'd be curious. What's up, Orlando? Jackie, because his number's retired. Yep, you got 42 day.
There's certain players, man, and this could be applied to any sport. We're talking about baseball tonight.
Mookie, I want to disagree with you because John and I saw a Jim Thome statue, and I don't know that Jim Thome is going to remain as significant in 50 years. Sorry, John.
To Indians fans, maybe Phillies fans.
In 50 years?
Well, listen, we can make an argument that no one will be exactly at the same level they are now in 50 years. Even the icons.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So who are those icons?
That list is probably, that will be exactly the same.
Or as close to it as possible.
It's probably a smaller list, but that we could do in 15 minutes.
Well, I got Ted Williams on my list.
Ted Williams is on my list. But I probably have more names than you do.
Well, I got Ruth, Ted Williams, and Jackie Robinson.
That's it?
No. Those are the ones I think we agree on. You agree on all those?
Yeah, those are layups, though.
How about Josh Gibson? And I'm going to throw him in there because they've merged the statistics, and I think that'll.
Well, I'll say this: he should be, and I think the recent decision by Major League Baseball would put him back in the forefront in the spotlight as he should be. He'll be more remembered in 50 years before that decision was made, but how much so? You know what I mean? That's the $1 million question.
I'm going to disagree with Mike here a little bit. He says anybody who's remembered today that played 50 years ago will be remembered 50 years. No, I think there's a difference.
I don't think he's far off. I don't think he's far off as you do.
Mike Petty will still be the hobby president in 15 years. That's the low tier burrito. Forget Josh. Well, that's fine. I also have Shohei Ohtani on there. There's one of my few I have two non-Hall of Famers.
Yeah, but that's a layup too, barring injury. Like if he plays 8 or more years, yeah, for sure, no doubt.
Ruben, I have Clemente on my list also. John, do you have Clemente?
Yeah, he is, but like, no, he is. He is. I just, will he be revered in the same way? Probably pretty close. Pretty close. I don't want to say anything. Like, I don't think he'll have any kind of significant drop off.
Once again, having the award and stuff named for him, Mookie, I agree with you completely. The question is how many other players in the next 50 years will get there. It doesn't.
I don't
matter.
think it ever. I'm going to say it. I don't think it happens again.
But he's still the first. It's like Ruth being the first to hit 60 homers.
I think it's easier to hit 50. As crazy as this goes sound, it's probably easier to hit 50 home runs than steal 50 bases now.
Not anymore.
Although with the new
with
the way they made the bags bigger and the new rules about throwing over, maybe not.
Warren, you make a good point, but then I wonder if he doesn't get the the Gale Sayers, Sandy Koufax treatment. 50-50's done.
If he never played again, if God forbid something happened and he never played again, his accomplishments will be talked about. He'll still be compared to Ruth as a dual position icon, but I don't think there's no way he'll be looked upon in the same fashion.
Mike Petty says he wants Ohtani's 54-54 card. He's over the tops now, 50-50. That's hilarious. I'm with
sure,
you on that one.
I'm
Petty.
sure they're cranking up the printing presses as we speak. I hear the generator going.
Ricky says Ricky could steal 200 bases with today's rules. I'm not sure that's not far off.
When I'm reading that, I love that. I heard Ricky's voice in my head.
Yes.
Reading that.
Roger Maris won't be remembered in 50 years. Orlando, I agree with you completely.
Yeah, I think he's right, and that's too bad, unfortunately. I don't know though. The 61 home runs, I think that'll still be talked about, but I think Roger Maris himself will have a diminished significance.
Yes, and by the way, I think Ty Cobb will still be remembered in 50 years. He's on my list.
Yeah,
because he's already made it 100. I think once
you got to remember too. There's movies out there as well. Like somebody like Ty Cobb has a movie. If you have a movie made about you, chances are you're going to be remembered because that can be watched at any time by a generation that doesn't even know. I wasn't alive when Ty Cobb played, but I know who the heck he is and of his greatness and a lot of the other stuff too, right? And I think that will continue, especially with people who are baseball fans.
Yes, Roger Maris's movies.
Yeah, and I think that will help. That will help curb some of the drop off of significance.
We are 40% of New Kids on the Block. Can I be Danny, not Donnie?
There was not a John in New Kids on the Block that
I couldn't tell you. Jose Canseco. Warren brought up first 40-40. Does anybody remember him? I'm going to say not for anything he did on the field. Maybe for his book.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be as famous. Great point by Dr. Mayer, right? Tommy John. We're probably going to still, unless it becomes another pitcher's name's surgery, unless there's a new technology, and it becomes like the Paul Skeens, like he's having Paul Skeens surgery next week. It's scheduled.
Ruben, this hurts just a little bit.
Kyle Schwarber.
I don't know what I've done to you, Ruben. I get Jonah Hill and John gets John Cena.
No, yeah, I better hit the gym.
Ruben, I love you, buddy, but that one hurts.
Jonah Hill might get. Jonah Hill might be like a shot for me. Although he's skinny now, so I don't think he can play either one of us anymore. He'll have to add weight for the role. He'll have to just eat a bunch of donuts and
Right.
carbs and pasta. And like I'm ready for the Mensch movie, Scorsese.
Yeah, that hurts. That threw my game off. Orlando says Canseco will be remembered similarly to Kurt Flood. Kurt Flood may not be remembered, but what he did will be. And Canseco is like the reverse.
Yeah, that's a good draw in a comparison. I won't argue that.
Merkel's boner. Fred Merkel, right there, just so I can tell that story.
Yeah, there will be plays, right? I think there'll be, Maris's 61 home runs, the Canseco ball home run off the head, Bo Jackson crashing through a wall, right? Those type of plays,
I was at that game.
Yeah, that stuff will be, those like plays of significance will be remembered. The Buckner play, right?
Yep.
That thank you, Bill. Rest in peace. That kept the Mets' dreams alive, and I got a ring out of that.
All right,
I know what.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, man, the abuse he took after that was I actually felt bad. So,
well, I have a name that I seriously want to throw out there, and I'm talking about similar appreciation to today. Not that people won't have heard of him, not that people won't appreciate him, but will Hank Aaron hold the same level?
Hank Aaron's on my list, dude. No doubt. No doubt Hank Aaron is going to be revered.
I think he will be loved.
You have doubts on Hank Aaron?
I don't think he'll be nearly as well known as he was.
I disagree. He's, I think in many he's still going to be the home run king.
Yeah, think back 50 years to 74. Who was famous then that's not famous now? Well, you can go through the 70s on a lot of players.
Well, Mike Tyson was the Mike Tyson for the Cardinals was famous, and Mike Tyson the boxer is still famous. I'm just kidding. Willie
Mays will be forgotten. Mike Petty, I can't tell if you're sarcastic with that.
Yeah, I never. Hank Aaron will not be forgotten. Willie Mays will not be forgotten. Some of these other names on my list, you're going to probably disagree with. I think dominant pitchers will be remembered. Your Koufaxes, your Gibsons, your Seavers, your Nolan Ryan.
I think guys like them will be. We don't talk about Jim Cott.
He's not a dominant pitcher, though. I'm talking about dominant pitchers, the pitchers that famous batters and Hall of Fame batters said, "Man, I was scared to get in the box with that guy."
There's a handful of guys, but as much as I would like to think,
that's my point.
They'll talk about Greg Maddux. They're not going to talk about Greg Maddux in 50 years like they do now. I wish they would.
I disagree. Maybe not exactly, but he's going to still be. He's still going to be. Some of the stuff he's done, we talked about it, I think, on last show. Absurd like numbers that will be in whatever the social media, whether it's Facebook still or another. You're going to get those memes that how many 3-2 counts he's had in his whole career.
Here you go.
Yeah, that Randy Johnson just killing the seagull by accident. That'll be a clip.
That if it wasn't for that clip, do you think Randy Johnson would be remembered the same way?
No, he wouldn't make my list.
Steve Carlton.
He's on the border, but he probably wouldn't make my list. So I don't relief pitchers. I don't think like Hall of Fame relief pitchers are going to be remembered, but Mariano Rivera will be remembered in 50 years.
I had him on my list, and I took him on and off a couple of times. I agree with you on the relievers. Mariano.
No one will talk about relievers, but they'll still talk about Mariano Rivera in a different way, almost like he's not a reliever, but he really is.
This is like a mentioned version of the barbershop.
You want me to? Hello, Danny. Listen, you're wrong, Danny.
Try the soup.
You're wrong, Danny. I don't care. I still like you, but you're wrong. All right, that's my. That's all I can do. It hurts.
Here we go. I will not stand for Philly slander. Cousins collectibles in the house. Carlton forever.
He's right
I
on that
think
cusp of
Carlton is
dominant
one of the-
pitchers. Left-hander,
I think he's one of the
obviously.
greatest pitchers of all time. But do you think Warren Spahn's going to be talked about the same way he should be?
No. I agree with you on Warren Spahn, but I don't think that. I think he should be. I just think he doesn't. He's one of those guys. We can talk about the guys that don't get enough. That's a whole show. We kind of did it already. I think your Stan Musials and your Warren Spahns, guys that don't get enough credit for how great they were.
Here you go. There might be some truth to the Raleigh fingers.
Yeah.
Hodges, that's my point. Warren Spahn's amazing. That's my whole point. Is that as great as he is, I don't think in 50 years people will remember that. Mookie,
I agree on Spahn. I don't think it should be that way, but I think that will be the case.
I don't think any of them should be that way. I haven't even gotten to my no yet.
Yeah.
Duke Snyder gets no love. Hey,
yeah, listen. I'm a Duke. I'm a Brooklyn Dodger kid. I know they were gone, but I grew up learning about him. He played under the shadow of Mays and Mantle. That's a tough.
Willie Mickey.
That's a big shadow. That is a big shadow.
So I have Duke Snyder on my list of people that I think will be overlooked in 50 years.
Who?
Duke Snyder is on my list of.
I think he's overlooked now, Danny. So
Yeah. So I have Ernie Banks as somebody who I think will be overlooked in 50 years.
That's he's I think he'll still be a known commodity, but again, I put him in the same category with Spahn and Musial, guys that don't get enough love for how great they were and what they.
How about George Brett?
Yeah, that's a good one.
And Jeff, I'm going to say if you're
well, you know what, Brett, you know what clip's going to run with Brett, the Pine Tar game and the meltdown.
But the moment will be known more than the player.
I think you're right. I won't disagree with that. I don't think it should be the case, but I think it will be the case.
Well, I agree with you. It shouldn't be. It's on people to teach the next generation. And this is
and some of that will happen. Some of that's going to happen too. We got to give people credit. I mean, stories are going to continue to be passed down from one fan generation to the next.
I'll go out of order for Hodges. Frank Robinson is on my list, unfortunately, and this is to prove that I'm not being a homer. I just
Frank Hodges on Frank Robinson on your list of guys that will be forgotten.
Not forgotten. I don't think forgotten, but not get the credit they deserve.
He's on that list today. Forget 50 years from now.
Well, in Baltimore, he gets a little bit more.
Well, yeah, you can't use a home city because in Burlingame, California, Greg Jeffries is probably still revered.
Cal Ripken is known for his record. That was my argument on DiMaggio. I don't think people are going to talk about much more than DiMaggio's record in 50 years.
Yeah. DiMaggio I think will be talked about more than Ripken. No offense to your.
No, I agree with you on that.
Okay.
I'm not comparing those two, but I think they're
both. With DiMaggio, you got the Marilyn Monroe wedding. You get, but there's a lot of tentacles to Joe DiMaggio.
Ruben says players being remembered is a lot like the hobby popularity. Brett, however, great player, was a Midwest guy where a Mattingly who played in New York City was good, but has a cult following in the hobby.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Stooks says
a great point by Stooks.
Is already minimized after Hershiser broke his record and overshadowed by Gibson and Denny McLain for the 68 season.
Great. All true. All true. Drysdale's another guy, one of the most feared pitchers. Like when those Hall of Fame hitters from that era are asked, like, hey, pitcher you were scared to get in the box with, probably 70-80% said Drysdale.
The ones who didn't say Gibson.
Yep. Yeah, and he's like Snyder was overshadowed by Mantle and Mays. Drysdale was overshadowed by his own teammate for some time in Koufax and Gibson.
So one of my favorite stories is when Koufax sat out the World Series on Yom Kippur, Drysdale got the start. He got rocked early in the game. Manager came out to the mound. Drysdale goes, "I bet you wish I was Jewish too."
Is that a true story?
It's supposedly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's paraphrased, but it's one of my favorite stories. All right, here's a controversial one. I got a couple controversial ones. I don't think Bob Feller will be remembered with the same.
No, I agree with you there. I agree with you there. But there'll still be Bob Feller may not be remembered, but there'll still be 2 million Bob Feller autographs in circulation.
and 2 million fake ones to go with it.
His autograph will not be forgotten. He might be forgotten, but his autograph will still. Plenty of Bob Feller autographs will be in circulation.
Here, Matty K says Hershiser. People forget how absolutely dominant he was in '88. John won't like this one.
He was. I kind of like. I don't know why. I'm not an LA Dodger fan, but he was a nice guy. Didn't do a lot of trash talking, and that season, like that was insane. Arguably one of the greatest pitching seasons. Or Hershiser probably not going to make the Cooperstown, but he does have a museum. He does have a.
Does he?
Yeah. It just
There's an Oral Hershiser Museum.
Yeah.
I would have lost that bet.
Yep.
All right. Here's another one. And this might be somebody you're going to tell me is already underrated, but I think that they are one of the small hall guys that might be a little bit more forgotten in 50 years, and that's Stan Musial.
I said him already.
Well, I had him on my no list.
And he's on my going to be forgotten list, and that's sad because he's arguably one of the greatest pure hitters in baseball history.
Wait a second. The Ted Williams Museum shut down, but Oral Hershiser still has one?
Well, Oral Hershiser's one, I think, opened this year. So
okay. Well, we got to get the Ted Williams going. And remember to donate to the Babe Ruth Museum in Baltimore.
Which I've been to.
Yep.
It was very cool.
Hodges says, my first eBay pickup years ago in high school, 20 years ago was the Don Drysdale rookie card.
Classic card, 57 tops. Big close-up facial, which I got a thing for those.
But
I got a thing for those. It's a kid show.
Mookie, were the assets frozen on the Ted Williams Museum? That's Ruben.
I tell you what, if we ever had like show writers, my nominations for Ruben and Mike Petty.
Ruben might have comment. I think Ruben's got comment of the night with that one. I'm assuming that's Ohtani. Now has 57 stolen bases.
This is incredible. Like this, you can make the argument. Like my son, I don't want to say an argument. I got into a spirited discussion with my son the other night. And I said, Ohtani's obviously easily going to run away with the MVP. And he's like, no, I think Francisco Lindor should get it. And I'm like, dude, no way. Like, I know he plays,
son, but no.
No, not this time. I'm like, dude, you're nuts. Listen, I like Francisco Lindor. He had a great year. Ohtani had arguably one of the greatest seasons in baseball history. How about the game to get to 50-50?
Might be the greatest
3 home runs, 4 runs, 6 for 6, 3 dingers, 10 RBIs. It takes even good players 2 weeks to put up those kind of numbers. He did in one night. It's Ohtani. I don't even think anyone else gets a first place vote.
I agree with you. I like how you stated he will run away with the MVP.
And you can bet on it too. You can bet on it too, Ruben.
That's funny for both of you. Brooks Robinson made Pie Trainer disappear. Now Mike Schmidt is edging past Brooks. Brooks could fall into the list of guys who's not remembered as well.
Yeah, that's a shame. He is going to. I'm not going to lie about it. He is. I don't think it's fair. but that's what's going to happen.
Even with 16 Gold Gloves. But, it's just
Isn't that
not the same.
nuts?
Yep.
It's nuts.
All right. How about Al Kaline?
Again, he's there. He's almost there now. He's not there yet. But in 50 years, unfortunately, yeah.
All right. I got another controversial one. Kirby Puckett, Maddie says. Maddie, is that Kirby Puckett will or won't be remembered as well?
Probably won't be, and he should be. Yeah, I think he's saying, I don't want to speak for him or put word. I think he's saying he should be, but he won't be. Much like your usual spawns that we talk, Frank Robinson.
I go back and forth.
Tony Gwynn. Listen, I love Tony Gwynn. Again, one of the best pure hitters baseball's ever seen. Guy didn't even strike out hardly at all. But in 50 years, we're people won't be talking about him the way he should. I don't think people talk about Tony Gwynn in the significant way he should be today. So in 50 years, it's going to be worse, unfortunately.
Yep. This is a great one. Ralph Connor is already much of a now. Imagine another 50 years.
I think there's people who.
This is my point.
Yeah, I think there's people who know Ralph Kiner as a broadcaster more than a player. There's probably people who don't even realize he actually was a long ball hitter and quite a good one.
I think I know this person. Zachary says Ohtani running away with it might be related to his twin brother Connor. Will Billy Ripken be remembered more than many Hall of Famers because of his fun face card? I think there's a lot of cards that'll be remembered. I think that's part of the reason that Mantle has always been remembered so disproportionately to all those other guys you named. And here I'll take two right here. Top 4 batting averages for players that started after 40: Gwen, Boggs, Crew, and Puckett after 1940 to clarify.
And probably all four of those guys in 50 years will not be revered in the manner they should be.
Yep. Mookie says Luis Ariz is a great hitter. Forgot him already.
I do know what it is. I was just thinking to myself, why don't baseball fans hold those pure hitters that bat 300 every year in higher regard? And it's the old chicks dig the long ball. I think baseball fans dig the long ball too. And so we don't, I do, maybe you do, maybe some people in the chat room, but I think baseball fans and hobbyists, like the home run more. They don't care that guy struck out 180 times to hit 40 bombs and batted 260 in the process.
Yeah. Orlando's, I agree with this. Even Miguel Cabrera may not be remembered due to Pujols and Ichiro. And I'm going to go a step further. I have Ichiro on my list of players who will be remembered. I think Ichiro, because of the worldwide appeal, what he did in being one of the first players to come over here and have a Hall of Fame career.
So today, here's a question. Today, I'm not talking 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Who is the best Japanese baseball player to come over here and do it? Would you say right now it's Ichiro?
You're saying for a career?
Yeah.
So it's Ichiro versus Shohei is what the question is.
It is Ichiro. And if Shohei doesn't drop off, get injured, Shohei's going to be the greatest Japanese ball player. You can some people will say, John, he already is, dude. Like, I know you like Ichiro, but Shohei's already surpassed, Ichiro in popularity.
Mookie says Ichiro was a pioneer.
I agree with Mookie. I think he still is for now. But if Ohtani has 5 to 8 more really good years, I'm not saying 50-50 all the time. It may never do it again. I think Ohtani supplants him on that pedestal.
I don't think Ohtani needs much more to pass him. I think it's a great question, John.
I really think it is.
It's a great question, but I think it's really close. I think Ohtani's done so much this year that he only needs a couple more all-star top 5 MVP type years to seal the deal. Remember, he's already had 4 or 5 great years. Larry Walker,
Yeah.
no love. Yep.
Here's another good hit, very solid hitter, but played in obscurity in Colorado with
And
the
Montreal.
Expos,
Yeah.
and 50 years, like, you know who will remember him when people who walk by his Hall of Fame plaque in Cooperstown. Who's this Larry Walker guy? Let me read this. You know,
That's exactly. And I just put in the chat room somebody who I don't think will be remembered.
so here I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on Yaz because of the Triple Crown. I think players who are Hall of Famers and also have like those kind of feats, a Triple Crown season.
Do you think Miguel Cabrera is going to be remembered?
I think he will, but not in the same as today. So I mean, I guess it's how big of a drop off is it going to be?
Yep. Orlando says Ohtani needs to play 10 years total and play like he is now. Well, he's at what, 5 or 6 already.
The 2024. Did they lose? Did they set the record? I know they swept the Angels to not get the. I want them to beat it so the Mets aren't the worst team in baseball history anymore. 62 Mets, that is.
I'll let you read this one. This is a great question.
Here's something to think about. If a player does not get elected into the Hall of Fame and has to go through the Vets Committee, yeah, they're probably easily forgotten because they're you know what I mean? They have to rely on the Vets Committee. Players that most likely played, you know, or writers that most likely covered them during their years of playing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yes, the White Sox set the record tonight.
All right. The Mets are
they're
not the worst team in baseball history anymore.
That
doesn't mean that they'll blow any playoff shot they have though here coming down the last games of the regular season.
So who's the greatest White Sox player of all time? I'll throw that out to the chat room. Greatest White Sox player of all time. They've been around for a long time to have a short list.
Yeah. I mean, Frank Thomas is in the mix. I don't think he's necessarily the guy.
I don't know. He might be. I mean, he had some sick numbers.
Did the fact that he bounced around to some teams at the end, does that hurt that?
Here you go. Frank Thomas, White Sox fan here, easy one.
Ron Kittle. You know, for a few years, Ron Kittle, you know, what? Let me put it this way. If you had a fantasy draft in like 1983, Ron Kittle was a very high pick.
Oh, this is a good one. Shoeless Joe.
Yeah, I think he's got to be like he's an incredible player, man.
Well,
and with the whole Black Sox scandal and how he still performed in that World Series.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think Joe Jackson would have been remembered if it wasn't for the 1919 Black Sox? Because that's kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think so, but he's not. I don't think in the same vein like a Ty Cobb is, even though they played at around the same time.
And probably Joe Jackson was a much better player than he's ever received credit for.
I think the singer Joe Jackson took some of the shine away from him.
I
remember him or no?
I have no idea. Who is Joe Jackson, the singer? He's not. He's not.
He had that song, "Stepping Out." You probably heard the song. You didn't even know.
You should not say
Ron Karkovice, the Walrus.
Frank Thomas, number one across the board. It really is. Isn't that amazing? In the history of the White Sox, you have like Shoeless Joe or Frank Thomas, and that's it. Nobody, not one person said Jack McDowell.
No, Jack McDowell, get out of town.
I'm
with
kidding.
Hoyt Wilhelm?
He was a young blackjack, didn't he? Or 20 games won?
Yeah, I mean, he was a good pitcher for 3 to 5 years. Hoyt Wilhelm?
I thought he bounced around a little bit. Eddie Collins?
He did.
Luke Appling?
Yeah. I know we're forgetting people. Robin Ventura. He's got Nolan Ryan's vote.
Dick Allen, yeah, played for some other teams also.
Yeah. I think Dick Allen's associated more with the Phillies than the White Sox.
What are some of the nicknames we will never forget? Well, that helps guys get remembered.
Well, let's bring Chris Berman in. He's backstage.
Carlton Fisk. Yeah, I think Frank Thomas was a better White Sox.
And I think people think Fisk, they think Red Sox.
Eddie Matthews, I think more on the Braves.
Braves, yeah.
Yeah,
he's a guy, going back to the list of guys we'll forget. Unfortunately, he'll be on that. Like he's already on that list. Really,
he's got the cover of the first Sports Illustrated. That he'll always have that.
Yeah.
Robin Ventura. Wow, Nolan Ryan knocked him back.
Robin Ventura. I mean, I'm not making a Hall of Fame case for him. He's not all, but for a good stretch, he was one of the best hitters in baseball too.
For a couple of years, he was a solid hitter.
Yeah, I remember him. I remember watching him at Oklahoma State.
Well, he was a great college player.
Yeah.
So was Pete Incaviglia.
Yeah.
But, I wouldn't say they dominated in the majors.
No.
So who's the greatest Met of all time? Seaver?
Probably Seaver, man. For sure. I mean, right, today.
All right. So did you miss anybody off your list?
Of significant? Like who?
Either way.
No, I mean, my list, I think, is longer than yours. I think there are people who will, Nellie Fox and Luis Aparicio. But again, they're not, because they didn't hit home runs.
Yeah.
People don't give them enough credit. And that's not fair, but that's just the way.
Oh, speed and defense. Yeah, the Go-Go Sox.
I think any fringe Hall of Famers, right? Your Harold Baines, your Ron Santos, guys that, like you said,
I don't think Robin Yount and Paul Molitor, any of these guys will be remembered.
No, I think you're right. I think, and it's sad, but I think you're right.
Dave Winfield?
Yeah, probably not, unfortunately.
I mean, it's a lot of talent.
Yeah.
So who else will be remembered? Shohei? Somebody said Trout.
I don't know about Trout at this point anymore. Like
in 50
he
years,
probably is a Hall of Famer. But if he doesn't get back on the field and produce again at a significant level, I don't know if he's remembered in 50 years.
Well, is he a Hall of Famer now?
I think he is, but the more time he misses, that argument gets made more the other way.
I don't know. 3 MVPs, a Rookie of the Year. And the
worst thing he did was sign that 10-year deal with the Angels. When he did it, I said, "What is this guy doing?"
Well, I'd love to make that mistake.
Well, yeah, he got paid, but he would have got paid to go somewhere else. So you can't say he got paid. And that's like he would have got paid to not somewhere else to sign. Like the Angels wouldn't have been the only team to pony up the dough.
Yep.
Yeah, Hank Greenberg.
I couldn't agree more on Hank Greenberg. If Trout played for the Yankees and Dodgers, no doubt.
Yeah. You guy I talk about a lot, right? Jimmy Fox. Won't be.
I love Jimmy Fox.
Yeah, he won't be talked about enough. He's not talked about enough today. He's sure as heck not going to be talked about in 50 years.
Trout has never had a chance to make playoff memories.
Yeah, that hurts you. That hurts your. That's why Jeter will be talked about. Is all the postseason heroics and rings.
Here you go. I think this is some forecasting.
I hope he's right. We need some help.
Soto will be remembered as the best Met ever.
So we need some help, specifically in the outfield.
Winfield and Molitor will always be remembered in Toronto.
Yeah.
So will Jack Morris. I guess. I mean, in your hometown city, if you've won a World Series and you're a Hall of Famer, you should be remembered.
Hometowns are, and that's why they're hometowns, right? Always lift up their own, as it should be.
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't say hometowns. Hometowns and home cities where a player made their bones. You know, in Baltimore, Ripken will never be forgotten, right? I think we all can.
Yeah, so will Mitch Williams in Toronto. Right, like Joe Carter will be remembered just as much, but he's not the player.
Yeah.
Here you go. Listen, players with museums. Maris has a museum and an annual golf tournament in his hometown. The annual golf tournaments, I believe, but the museums I'm blown away with. Between Oral Hershiser tonight, I'm still not over the fact that he's got a museum.
I think he's involved in it too. So it's like,
you think he paid for it?
I think he something. I mean, he obviously gave some of his stuff from his career to be, displayed there.
Does anybody know anything about the Oral Hershiser Museum? I'm going to go down a rabbit hole with that later. Yogi has a museum. Yep. His granddaughter, I know, worked hard
New Jersey.
Yep. What's up, Logan? King NASCAR. PSA Hall of Famer in the house. Wade Boggs is the best hitter I've ever seen, Matty K says. Played for my Bo Sox, but likely not to be remembered. He's on the list of guys that I unfortunately, now had one of these guys hit 400, they'd be remembered.
George Brett almost hit 400.
Gwen almost hit 400 in the strike shortened year.
Yeah.
This is a great comment. Is Larry Doby's popularity gaining steam? Yes.
We're not going to do it tonight, but maybe a future episode is what players might get a kick in the opposite way.
This is a great one. Being exposed to what he did in the American League and getting his story out there and what he did, post playing days.
And maybe, we mentioned Josh Gibson earlier. Maybe Josh Gibson's legend actually gets bigger with the
gets even ruling. Better.
Yeah.
The Oral Hershiser Museum is sponsored by a dentist. That's hilarious.
Is that for real or is it a play on Oral Hershiser?
Yeah, exactly. Doby for sure. Well, that's a great name for somebody who's going up, and it's actually probably there's probably great Doby cards out there that haven't gone up enough in price yet that are probably still
51 Bowman. And that one sticks out. I already knew the card, but I had a couple of those on my recent SGC bulk sub, and they look nice.
I definitely that might go on my wish list. Logan cannot remember if that was one of the.
He didn't, probably only because ESPN wouldn't allow it to happen, not because he didn't want to. Car Shield. That's what Chris.
It's a play. The only one I could make PG since Danny's kids are watching. Danny's kids are not used to just PG. It's okay. I'm a good father, but we sticks and stones. We're on the home stretch here, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, I think my list is longer than yours. I think certain people will still be revered. I think, whether you like it or not, Yankees will, just because of the fan base and the Yankees, those guys will be harder to forget. Let me put it that way. Than maybe somebody who plays on a smaller market team or the Midwest, your Younts, your Molitors, those kind of guys. And I'm not comparing, Yount or Molitor to, necessarily Mantle, but they probably compared to some other Yankee Hall of Famers that will probably be remembered ahead of them for whatever fair or unfair, right? So Minoso,
Yep.
Orlando brings up one of a guy that's gaining popularity from,
Mhm.
because it can work both ways. It's a two-way street here.
This is great. Pee Wee Reese Museum, the local urologist. Um, how many YouTubers will be remembered in 50 years? None of them.
What I'm hoping is that the urologist's office is not in the back of the museum. Come check out Pee Wee's jersey from Jackie's rookie season, and please leave a specimen in the back.
Bryce Harper needs a ring or two to be remembered, or 500 dingers. I'm going to actually say that without 500 home runs, I don't think a ring or two would do it.
I think Dan Ryan says the White Sox are officially the best worst team ever. Yep, and the Mets are now no longer the placard holder there.
Jeff Conine for the Marlins and Evan Longoria for the Rays.
As their franchise player of all time.
Franchise.
Well, a lot can change in
you could say, Jose Fernandez.
You can make a case. I'm not saying he's great, but you can make a case for Dontrelle Willis for the Marlins.
Or whatchamacallit, Cabrera. Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah, he wasn't there super long, but he's probably one of the best players that come through there. You can't make a case for Mike Piazza as the greatest Marlin. He was there about 15 minutes.
Right. This is funny. Orlando says the YouTube video will be viewed in 50 years. No one will be remembered. That's funny. Any Seattle Pilots players? No, we're gonna start with the Houston Colt 45s and move on from there. Actually,
how about will the Oakland A's be remembered?
You mean the A's? They're no longer the Oakland A's.
Yeah.
Oh, Ruben. Stu says Rich Rollins and Don Mincher pilots that were former twins. Let me tell you something.
Well, remember the airbrush hats on the 70 tops, and
that is stretching it for people who are twins and pilots on the Immaculate Grid. That would be a tough one. I'm guessing Stooks does better on Immaculate Grid than I do. Colt 45s. There you go.
Yeah,
Joe Morgan and Rusty Snub. Yep. Although Rusty, you got to put with the Expos or the Mets.
Yeah, he was known more for there. But I tell you what, man, I know he played for the Mets later in his career. He had some really, he got a lot of clutch hits and game-winning hits, and then was on Kiner's corner. He became one of my favorite early Mets, even before I was officially had transferred my fandom from the Yankees to the Mets. He was a fan favorite of mine.
I was not a fan favorite of Joe Morgan. Not a fan of his at all. Don't like Joe Morgan. Met him in person once. Guy was an asshole.
Really?
Yeah. I hope he's forgotten in 50 years.
Wow, he doesn't come. Well, I mean, he's obviously gone now, but when he was announcing on ESPN, he didn't come across that way. But again, he's on TV.
This is Billy D. Williams is the only Colt 45 I'll remember. Rusty was the star of the 73 Mets. Yeah.
He had some, the numbers, the overall season numbers won't knock your socks off, but he had some games where he was just clutch. He's one of those clutch guys.
Agreed. Joe Morgan was a jerk.
Wow. It's the Joe Morgan throw him under the bus 10-minute marathon.
Call him like I see him. I don't make up stories.
I never met him, so I can't. I'm going to have to take your guys' word for him, apparently.
You know what? It's hard to be that rude that quickly. Joe Morgan had a special talent. Not everybody can be that rude that quickly, but he could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you the story off air.
All right.
But it does involve him first of all, he was about 5 feet tall on his tippy toes. And I think he had a little Napoleon complex.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. But I don't. Will any second baseman be remembered?
Jeff Kent.
Yeah. Speaking of jerks. No, seriously. I mean, will there be a second baseman who's played recently,
Lou Whitaker.
or a vintage card that you can think of other than Jackie Robinson?
Sweet Lou Whitaker. You're gonna sleep on Sweet Lou Whitaker?
I'm telling you, second base. Now, Rose played every.
He will, and he'll still be signing at Cooperstown in Las Vegas in the same day. He'll be 120 years old, signing in both cities.
Alomar spitting on an ump. Actually, my brother was at that game.
That was bad. I remember it. I think I was watching that game live, if my memory served me correct. And I'm like, did I see what I just saw? I was like Joe Buck. I can't believe what I just saw.
Ryan,
but it wasn't the home run. It was Alomar spitting on the umpire.
The loogie heard around the world. Gambling is cool now. But you're not too far from Hard Rock, Orlando. It's been cool there for a while. There's a huge casino down there.
Yeah. There's casinos almost everywhere now. Like
this is on an Indian reservation. It's been there probably for 20, 30 years.
I'm in central New York. We have 3 or 4 casinos in less than an hour from me.
Yeah, no, I love the Hard Rock. It's been rebuilt, and that's where the Dolphin Stadium is. The Hard Rock.
Yeah,
not too far from there. All right, we got 2 weeks, my friend. Do you want to tell everybody that you're not going to be here in April? Do you want to give them notice already?
Oh yeah, well, Billy Joel, it just announced that my guy Billy Joel, who will be remembered in 50 years, will be playing again for the 8th time at what's now called the JMA Wireless Dome.
The Carrier Dome.
Yeah, most people remember it as or know it as the Carrier Dome. It's been redone inside. It looks actually nicer than what probably people who haven't been to it since it's been revamped. It's nicer today than it used to be. Billy Joel is coming back. He's coming back on a Friday, April 11th. That happens to be a Mensch day. So I'm just letting you know now, Danny, I will not, as much as I love you in the greatest chat room in hobby live shows history, I will not be here. God willing, I will not be here that night.
Did Billy?
Now, if I don't get tickets, I will be here, but I will be very grumpy. So you won't want me here.
Stuke said, "Did Billy Joel play second base? Only with Christy Brinkley." Pedro taking down Don Zimmer. Can't forget that. Let me tell you, Pedro is somebody who I hope is remembered. Yes, Mookie, I am looking for a pinch mensch.
There you go.
Who will be the stand-in?
You got April is what? April is what? 7 months away?
We got 7 months to find another mensch. Hold on, my mentions. What's up, TJ?
Submit resumes too.
Go White Sox team for sale, I hope. It's 9 o'clock.
And how do you lose? How do you lose? The regular crowd shuffles in. How do you lose? Man sitting
next to me talking about the Syracuse again.
I'll take that. How do you lose 121 games? Like
that almost takes work. But it almost takes work. You got to be impressed.
I almost think it's like the chick from Major League, the owner. Like, you're gonna lose, fellas.
Right.
You know, and we're gonna move the team and sell the team. Is she back? Or the updated version of her back? It's just in Chicago now instead of Cleveland.
That's funny. This came up earlier, but will definitely be remembered. Nolan Ryan beating up Ventura. Thank God that they have video or film on.
How sad is that if you're Robin Ventura?
He got the easy bit.
Like, whenever someone says Robin Ventura, that's the first thing people are going to think of.
Should I have Donovan McNabb sit in for you?
That would be cool.
Is he
I got some
qualified? I don't
stories
know
on
him
him that
personally.
aren't good. There aren't good stories.
Yeah, I don't know him personally.
Yeah, he's.
Uh,
I mean, he's a legend here, but
Not in 50 years.
no, he probably will be. Syracuse, is not New York City. Let's put it.
Fair enough. All right, my friend. This was fun.
Yeah.
You sound surprised.
No, we talked Billy Joel. That was like the cherry on the top. No, it is fun, and it's sort of. I guess I'm a little depressed too because I really feel bad that certain guys, even today don't get the recognition. Your Musicals, Gwyn's, Maddox's, Spahns, Frank Robinsons.
Yep.
They don't get the recognition they deserve today. And then obviously it's going to be even less so in 50 years. And that's too bad. But that's what Hall of Fames are for, right? For people to come through and learn about the history of the sport and say, hey, I don't know who this Greg Maddox guy is, but read this plaque, man. Like he had some crazy numbers, some crazy stats. And that's the beauty of Hall of Fames, right? To whatever Hall of Fame, from Rock and Roll Hall to whatever sport, right? It keeps those accomplishments alive for a generation that never saw those folks play. And listen, when I go to the Cooperstown and I read those plaques of some of those 1800 inductees, like I don't know all of them, but I learned from those plaques. So that's the beauty of Hall of Fames. Even Oral Hershiser's that you just found out about tonight.
I think on the oral note we'll end it for tonight.
We'll end it on oral.
We'll end it on an oral. John, this was a blast. Thank you for going along with my humor as always and playing it out. So say goodnight.
It was fun. It was good night, John.